And yeah, it's good enough, but I don't think the team around him is good enough to get into the playoffs because people seem to forget that last year when they were undefeated, he was making those anticipation throws, those accuracy throws in that short passing offense and still making those intermediate throws. So I've never had any question about the arm strength of Ben Roethlisberger. But, Dan, you know this. If you don't have a competent running game, there's only so much you can do just throwing the ball all over the place and not being a two-fisted attack. But I've never had any questions about the arm strength of Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, this guy stands in the pocket. He takes that punishment. But more than ever before, he gets rid of the ball on time. Gets the ball to the receivers in great positions where they're not going to get killed over the middle by safeties, not going to get killed over the middle by cornerbacks and linebackers dropping into coverage. His ability still to put the ball exactly as an on-target passer, I never had any questions about that. I question have the Steelers made enough around him in terms of a running game and that offensive line that is not the same what it used to be. But the arm strength question is not a question with me. He has more than enough arm strength and arm accuracy to get the Steelers in the playoffs. I don't think he has a team around him that can do that regarding that arm strength.
Freddie, let me ask you this. Will he be one of the 7 teams? Will they be one of the 7 teams to make it to the playoffs?
Here, right now, I'm going to say no because I still think Baltimore and Cleveland making that division. I think 3 teams out of the AFC East are going to get in when it comes to Miami, New England, and also Buffalo. So they could have a good season, but 9 or 10 wins and a loaded AFC may not be enough for Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers to get into the playoffs. I think 2 come out of the AFC North in Baltimore and Cleveland, but I think 3 come out of the AFC East in Buffalo, New England, and Miami.
Okay.
Yeah, Freddie, I mean, I'm with you, but I'm not really with you. So Big Ben's arm, yes, Big Ben has the arm. Yeah, I'm really not. I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, but I'm kind of like, it's not adding up, right? Last year we saw 3 teams from the AFC North make the playoffs. Last year we saw the Pittsburgh Steelers play 11-0, and then obviously they struggled towards the end. So Big Ben, yes, has the arm. The question is the offensive line, and I understand the offensive line is porous. They were the 31st ranked offensive line in the NFL last year. So Pittsburgh goes and drafts Najee Harris, who essentially was one of the best players in college football. Some people would say he was the best player at Alabama, and that's saying a lot. I would have said that. And so they get a running back. Maybe that's up the running game, but they also have a top 3 defense in the NFL. And so it's not really about Big Ben's arm, though he does have the arm. It's about their defense. It's about the running attack, and hopefully they can make some improvements along the offensive line.
So what's the answer, Acho? Is it yes or no? Do you think they're
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. I said yes. He has the arm to lead the Steelers to the playoffs. They have the defense. He's another year removed from elbow surgery, so you know what it's like to be injured at quarterback and have to play through it. He has the arm, without a doubt, and the Steelers will be in the playoffs, just like last year, which is exactly what I said.
The Steelers will not be in the playoffs, and it won't be because Big Ben is not good enough. Last year, Big Ben threw for 33 touchdowns and 10 picks still. If you actually go back to his last 2 starts of last season, he threw for 850 yards and 7 touchdowns. Go to the Colts game. He was unbelievable in that game. So Big Ben is still good enough, but he's not good enough to pull this team to the playoffs. That's the difference. The surrounding aspects of this football team need to be the pull, and he needs to get carried as a supplemental piece. He's no longer Big Ben from 5-6 years ago that can carry a football team. It is all about the offensive line. 3 new starters are going to be incredibly difficult to replace. When it comes to their average or below average performance level, I understand the defense is great, but at the end of the day, you are going to need to protect the quarterback and have some form of a run game. Give me a good O-line over a great running back. They don't have a good O-line in Pittsburgh. And I'm trying to figure out this whole offseason what this offense actually is going to look like. Because last year they masked a lot of their issues. Catch the ball, get it out. Catch the ball, get it out. And that covered up for the bad offensive line. You can't do that anymore because that's how you went on your losing streak to end the season, is everyone figured you out. I look at this as a fringe playoff team, but really like the 8 or 9 team. I agree 3 in the AFC could get out AFC East. I think 2 from the AFC North. I think 2 from the AFC South. Yep. And I think 2 from the AFC West are better football teams than Pittsburgh. And so I look at Big Ben going, okay, you're good enough, but you can't carry them. You can't carry this football team. You've thrown his last 2 seasons as a starter healthy, 77 touchdowns. So there's no issue of, wait, the quarterback's not good enough. Is our offensive line good enough? Yep. Is our backs good enough? Yep. Skill position good? Yep. That's not the case in Pittsburgh. He checks the box. The offensive line doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, my only pushback is this. We're all high on Miami is what it sounds like from you, Dan and Freddie. Mm-hmm. Yet last year in this same scenario, fringe playoff teams, who made the playoffs? The Pittsburgh Steelers, even though they were a fringe playoff team. Sometimes you have to base your experience off really base your success off of experience. So Mike Tomlin has experience in the playoffs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger, has experience in the playoffs. He knows how to win when it counts. And yes, I understand they went on a losing streak, but they won when it counts. Talk about those last 2 starts. The Pittsburgh Steelers know how to win when it counts, and I always put that experience and that culture over a team like the Miami Dolphins, who y'all are talking about they're going to make the 7th seed in the playoffs. I put Pittsburgh over Miami, and that's why I have them as the 3rd team in the AFC North to make the playoffs.
Well, if you would be right, Sam, if they had the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins.
Correct.
Now, I completely agree with you. That Miami Dolphins offensive line is much better than Pittsburgh's right now. Tua Tagovailoa is going to have a full training camp where he's really going to get used to playing with that offense, and also the tight ends. Gesicki is really, really good for the Miami Dolphins. They got an underrated defense. They have less questions. If you were 5 years ago, to Dan's point and Sam, to your point, 5 years ago, if they had questions in Pittsburgh, then Ben Roethlisberger was great enough to overcome those questions. Now he's not great enough to overcome those kind of questions as an aging quarterback. That's not an indictment on him. That's just the reality of the situation. 5 years ago, 3 offensive linemen not being there, Ben Roethlisberger is great enough to do that. Now, That's why I'm thinking Miami Dolphins a lot better than the offensive line, and I'm going to trust that they're going to be able to learn from their mistakes that they made down the stretch when they were a potential playoff team in the AFC East, and they were not able to do that. You want to use the word experience? In my opinion, they're going to learn from that experience of not making the playoffs. That's going to benefit them to get in the playoffs this year and keep Pittsburgh out.
Yeah,
but they had all these questions. Molly, real quick, they had all these questions last year, and they answered them by making the playoffs.
Bro,
that was last year, Sam. That was 2020.
You're telling me that you think the Steelers are going to be better than the Colts? You think they're going to be better than the Chargers, and you think they're going to be better than the Miami Dolphins? All 3 of those teams.
I think they're better than Miami. You don't have to be better than all 3 to make the playoffs.
Yeah, you do.
You don't.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, you
no,
do.
you don't. No, you don't.
Yeah, you do this year.
Look at last year.
Business school.
Look at last year.
I'm not looking at last year. I'm looking at this year. It's a 17-game season
Where
and an
did you
extra
go to
playoff
business school?
team. I'm not going to play revisionist history, Sam. It's this year that we're talking about, not last year. Last year was then. This year is now with Pittsburgh.
Go ahead, Acho. Make your humble brag.
I went to the Thunderbird School of Global Management, the #1 international business school in the world. People from all around the world. I know we're going to get to this in a little bit. People from all around the world come to this school to get their education. Dan, UConn, it's okay. I get it. Right.
I went to Catholic school as a kid, and we were the St. Lawrence Thunderbirds. So, same place.
Not even close. Not even close.
I'll just leave you guys with this. Speaking of the O-line, they did lose Pouncey and Villanueva. That is the Steelers on the O-line this season.
Point.
Okay, I'll be Googling that school. Still to come on First Take, all eyes on Dak Prescott's return. Is their most important player actually another Cowboy?